Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show right here on voiceamerica.com, America's Voice. This is the program that shows you how to turn your problems into solutions and your obstacles into opportunities and make your dreams come true. We are in our 23rd year on Voice America, which I'm very proud of. There are so many wonderful programs on this network, and I've been on many networks, but this is my longest running program. And today we have on a wonderful guest, somebody that I know and I've worked with to an extent and really has made a huge difference in people's health and information on people's health and wellness and positivity. My guest is Mary Blue. She is the founder of Farmacy Herbs, which is Farmacy, as well as an author, an organic farmer, and a community herbalist. Her book, Herbal Foundations, contains an overview of herbal actions, information on herbal medicine making, healing techniques, and more. And today we're going to talk about how herbs can empower us to take control of our health, our connection to nature, and how we can use it with other conventional methods, and how it can help us understand our own personal growth and ancestral heritage as our ancestors used herbs. That's how our pharmacy and our medicines happened. So welcome, Mary Blue.
Thank you so much, Patricia. I appreciate it.
Yeah, great to have you on. So, you have an amazing story. And the story itself, to me, is one of miracles in a way. It's one of being guided on a path where you were just supposed to be.
Mhm.
And so, how did you even develop this interest in herbal medicine, which would have been several years ago before it was maybe even as popular as it is now?
Yes, definitely. So I was raised in Providence, Rhode Island, a very, very Catholic family, very community-oriented family. And in the late 90s, I was introduced to nature. I had never spent really much time in nature as a kid. And it really just kind of grounded me, made me kind of have some sort of sense of place. So after I sort of started understanding how important nature is to the whole planet, to all of the animals and the humans, I started seeing a lot of pollution and a lot of the ways corporations are treating nature. Was really concerned about what I was putting in my body, was really concerned about the health of the water. So I started working as an activist for Clean Water Action, working to strengthen the water laws, shut down dirty power plants, and just really connected my health to the health of nature.
Mhm.
Through that activism work, I was introduced to herbalism. And as soon as I saw the connection between using plants as medicine and how healthy it is for our bodies, not just our bodies, but the ecosystem, the whole ecosystem, it fueled my path to keep up with my activism, but also to reconnect communities to this lost information. Because once I started wanting to learn in the late 90s, that was before we had internet, before we had blogs, before we had a lot of resources that we have now. You had to find your own teacher and you had to figure out, how do I learn about these plants, without any of our modern day resources. So I found an in-person teacher and just from 1999 on dedicated my life to
Oh,
learning about plants.
yeah.
And
And what's interesting about this, because I know this, because I also, and I have visited the place where you work and you live, and that is that you, several years ago, actually bought the land and created a farm where you grow these herbs. That's an amazing story in itself because that wasn't something that you had planned for and made a whole concrete business plan, right? I mean, this wasn't something that was like, this just kind of evolved. Talk about that because I think that's part of this
sure.
kind of
Yeah.
amazing miracle kind of story.
It is. Well, ever since I was introduced to nature in my early 20s, I would come down to the area where I live and always dreamed about having a farm on this road. I ended up started farming in the city up here in Providence, and I started a quarter acre city garden that I ran for 12 years. And then through that garden, I was able to secure USDA funding to buy my farm,
Wow.
which is on the road that I always used to dream about owning a farm on. So in order to work with the USDA, I did have to have a business plan, and I definitely planned it out. But because you kind of have to have all your
Right.
tax, everything in a row to work with the USDA. But ever since then, that was in 2011, I've been working with them to either get operating loans or just collaborative. I teach at some of their conferences. So yeah, I still have my property here in the city, which I ended up being able to buy a couple of years ago. We don't no longer have our quarter acre garden here because it got turned into a parking lot. But I was able to, out of just a very, very small piece of land here in the city, grow into my farm, which is 5 acres now that we grow the herbs that we sell here in the city.
Mm. But I think, and that's so remarkable. I think what I meant was it wasn't, it kind of, as you said, you found out that this was available. It was kind of serendipity in a way,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Every part of the path has been gratuitous, but also every part is trusting the process and taking risks and
Yeah,
trusting that those
yeah.
risks are going to work out for you.
Yes. Yes, and I just want to give a quick comparison. When I had to move 4 years ago, I really wanted to be in a place on the water. And at that time it was COVID, and that was my dream, but I said, I'm not going to find that. And I did. I mean, and it was like, really? So like you said, part of it is having that purpose and that intention
Mhm.
and believing that it's possible, even though it's a long shot.
100%. Well, when I first started, nobody was doing herbalism in the state, really. So everybody was like, "You're what? You're doing what?" Everybody just thought I was smoking weed because herbs are weed. And I'm like, "No, no, no,
Yeah.
it's not weed. It's every other plant." So
Yeah.
I had to educate my community, and that took many, many years on educating the community on that herbs are medicine, and if you know how to use them, they work.
Right. Right. Well, we have several other segments, but I want to ask you a few more questions before the break. And I think, today, in today's world, I mean, we're in 2025 and this show's evergreen, so people could listen to it in 3 years. But in 2025, I mean, more people are understanding herbs. It's more commonplace. And I mean, when I think of common herbs, just that we hear about a lot, we hear about echinacea for colds, right? That's one we often hear about. We hear about St. John's wort for often for anxiety, even though there's a lot of cautions around that. But I mean, there are certain ones we hear about chamomile and lavender for soothing. I mean, it's very commonplace. You hear about this a lot. So how has it changed in terms of what people kind of know and maybe digging deeper?
Well, I would say since I started studying, there's much more accessibility of information. And then there's also an awareness of pharmaceutical motivations. So there's a lot of people that are coming to herbalism because they don't want to be on drugs that have side effects or are
Mhm.
extremely
Yeah.
costly or are going to harm their body or the environment. So we see more information and then more awareness. And so it brings us to a place where there's definitely heightened awareness, especially with COVID. COVID was brought a lot of people to herbalism because there were no remedies. We didn't even know if the herbs would work, but we do know that boosting your immune system works. We do know that a healthy exercise and good food works. That's time, tested.
Mary, I want to just bring something up because this is important. If you are using herbs, but you're not exercising and you're not eating well, it can be counterproductive, correct? Or what do you think?
I wouldn't say it'll be counterproductive. I would say it's not going to be as effective.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
herbs are
Yes.
part of a holistic lifestyle. So those herbs that you mentioned, chamomile, St. John's wort, those are some of them are tonic herbs. These are herbs that are safe to be taken every day, and really they only work if you take them every day.
Hmm.
I always tell my students herbs work if you use them. A lot of times people only use herbs when they're sick. Herbs have more strength in preventing you from getting sick and balancing your health. So taking herbs every day, even if you're not sick, is actually the best way to take herbs.
Which is kind of like taking a supplement, correct? Like when you take a supplement every day for prevention.
Exactly.
Very interesting. All right, tell us your website, please.
It's pharmacyherbs.com and it's pharmacy with an F. So Farmacy herbs, herbs.com.
Okay. All right. And when we come back, we're going to talk about just kind of some specific herbs. We'll talk about conditions that we can look at and what are some herbs that might be recommended. And we'll just talk about, some of the results you've seen and also how you also work with students who are studying to become herbalists. So there's a lot to talk about here with Mary Blue. Mary is the founder of Farmacy Herbs, as well as an author, organic farmer, and community herbalist. And her book is Herbal Foundations, which contains an overview of herbal actions, information on herbal medicine making, healing techniques, and more. Stay tuned, folks. You're listening to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show, and we will be right back. Hi, everyone, and we are back. You are listening to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show right here on voiceamerica.com, America's Voice. And we are talking to Mary Blue about herbs. She is the founder of Farmacy Herbs, which is Farmacy, and you can look it up under pharmacyherbs.com, as well as an author, organic farmer, and community herbalist. Her book, Herbal Foundations, contains an overview of herbal actions, information on herbal medicine making, healing techniques, and much more. So welcome back, Mary.
Thank you.
So tell us about what you do today as an herbalist, in terms of rules and regulations and what you're teaching, kind of the role of a modern herbalist.
Sure. Well, there are no licensure regulations federally on herbalists. So that means that anyone can call themselves an herbalist, really. It's not
Mhm.
like a path of a doctor or a nurse where you have to get licensed. And the reason why herbalists aren't licensed, I mean, we license everybody. We license our dogs, literally.
Right,
Uh,
right.
So why aren't herbalists licensed? And it's because in a court of law, they haven't been able to prove that herbalists cause harm. That said, there are herbs that will kill you. It's just they're not available over the counter without a prescription. So, for instance, digitalis is a really beautiful plant that is a really important heart medication, but it's not available. We don't sell it in the store because it could be deadly. So it's a prohibitive substance, just like opium poppy or morphine, those kinds of things. So all other herbs that are available over the counter are not known to cause harm. And the FDA is constantly checking herbs if they get reports of potential harm,
Mhm.
working with specific herbs. So
Do you think that will happen, Mary? Do you think there will be in the future
I mean,
licensure?
it's a case by case study. It's a case by case per herb right now. The laws could change. It's really based on trade and the World Trade Organization and the FDA. And basically, right now, all herbs are considered safe unless they're proven harmful. In some other countries, like France, herbs are considered harmful and have to be proven safe before they're allowed into commerce without a prescription. So there's a lot of institutions, nonprofits that are watchdogs for this kind of thing, and there's a really strong health freedom organization and movements in the U.S. to protect our access to herbs.
Yeah.
That's
Have
why
there
herbalists.
have there
Hmm?
been studies, Mary, like control studies?
Yes, I mean that's again a herb by herb,
Yes.
depending on which herb it is. So basically, each state might have their own regulations. So federally, there's no licensure, but there's about 12 states that have a health freedom law, which states that it's like Rhode Island has a health freedom law, which states that unlicensed practitioners are allowed to practice without a license. That doesn't mean that it's illegal for me to practice in Massachusetts. It just means that I'm not as protected as I would be
I
in Rhode
see.
Island. So
Interesting.
I'm an educator. I'm a community educator. I do not treat any kind of disease. I do not recommend anyone getting off of medications. There are some clinical herbalists that will look at someone's health history and say, well, you can't take this herb with this medication. But when someone walks into my shop, I'm not doing a personal health history intake with every single customer. So I do talk to people about some medications they're on, but really that's not within my scope of practice
Right.
to
Right.
check people's medications. But so people come in. So I have a little store that we've been open 17 years now.
Wow.
People come in and will say, "Hey, do you have any herbs for respiratory support?" And then I'll show them all of the herbs
Right.
I have for respiratory support or immune support or um, reproductive health, whatever they're working with. The only thing is I do not treat any disease. So if someone comes in and says, "Do you have anything for asthma?" I would say no, but I have some herbs that might support the functioning of your lungs. It's a
Right.
similar laws as supplements. So yeah.
Yes. Yes. So
And we
that's
grow some of our herbs as well, so it's considered a farm product.
well, I will say, I have been to your farm and I have seen those beautiful, for example, the echinacea is this beautiful looking flower. It's like purple. I mean,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It looks like something that should be in a flower arrangement.
Mhm. Yeah, they are
And
gorgeous.
so, I mean, some of them are just really lovely
Mhm.
to look
Mhm.
at, as well as being an herb.
Yeah. Yeah, so you'll have herbalists that are herbal farmers, herbal educators. So I teach a lot of classes, as you mentioned. I'm also a product maker, so I sell my herbal products. I only sell it out of my store as a farm product. I don't distribute anywhere else. Then you have big farm businesses, herbal businesses, like my friend Kathy from Herbal Revolution, who sells all over the country. And then you have just family herbalists, people who are working with their friends and family to support them. But really, depending on the state, there's not many regulations on herbalists
Mm.
because we don't cause harm.
Right. So what are some typical things that people who come in, is it mostly to support, as you said, respiratory, like during the cold season when we're all coughing and sneezing, or is it pain? I mean, a lot of people have pain, whether it's arthritis or bursitis, or whether it's just plain old pain from not a diagnosed disease. What do you do in that case?
Yeah, so a lot of the things that I see coming in very regularly are fertility, people trying to get pregnant, immune support, definitely from someone who's been dealing with either autoimmune or all these coughs and colds going around because there are, the hospitals in Rhode Island just put the mask mandates back on because I think there's 4 different viruses going around right now. We also see a lot of anxiety and stress,
Mm.
uh, especially after the election. I call it the Trump bump. People came in freaking out, stressed out about everything in the world, whether they're pro-Trump or not pro-Trump. Everybody is wound up and upset about politics. So lots of stress, sleep. Oh, we have so much people coming in for sleep. When you can't sleep, the rest of your life is so hard and stressful, and then that leads to a weakened immune
Mhm.
system.
Mhm.
Digestion is another huge one.
Mhm.
Thyroid, the amount of people that are coming in with thyroid, needing thyroid support is yeah, those are the big ones.
Mary, what are some of the herbs that you suggest for anxiety?
Well, it depends on the person, but we have a really nice blend called Unwind Your Mind. It's a tea blend that is just chamomile and lemon balm and oat straw. They're super gentle herbs. They just kind of make you feel really calm. And then we have an extract, a tincture, which has stronger herbs in it that are like, will kind of take the edge off a lot quicker,
Mhm.
like passion flower and skullcap. And then
Mary,
was sedatives, which would be valerian.
how do you know exactly how much to put in the tincture? And is this a formula that you make up? Is this a formula that's, as you said, it's not regulated. I mean, is this a formula that our ancestors used that you've read about? I mean, how do you figure it out?
Quite possibly. I mean, plants have been around for thousands and thousands of years. So this using plants to calm the body or support the immune system or create more energy is nothing new. There are different cultures that have specific formulas like Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine. They have very, very specific formulas. But as far as my particular formulas came from when I was a family herbalist, just starting out, working with friends and family and getting feedback on it. And now I've been open 17 years and I have my tried and true formulas that if I tried to stop selling them, people will be banging on my door. People need their sleep support, people need their throat spray or all of the things
So
that
over the years, Mary, have you tweaked your formulas?
some of them, yeah, yeah, some of them definitely, but not only in the way where I've gotten better and more effective at medicine making as I've grown as an herbalist. So I've learned new ways to make things
I see.
easier, stronger, etc. Tastier.
Hmm.
But a lot of the herbs are the same. It's just sort of how I've formulated has shifted over the last, 17 years.
So if people would like to learn more and look at your book, Herbal Foundations, do they find that on
Yeah,
pharmacyherbs.com?
Farmacyherbs.com. I'm just coming out with a second edition of my book, which will be in print next week.
Oh, how
So
great.
yeah, yeah. The first book was like 120 pages. This one's 380 pages. So it's a lot
Wow.
more of my experience, 12 more years of my experience as an herbalist.
Wow. So some of the original and some new.
Yes, it's all reformatted, re-edited, lots of new information. Yeah.
And people can get it through Amazon?
No, I only sell it on my website, and it's not quite up yet. It'll be up in a week.
Okay, so remember this show, we're airing it today, which is February the 3rd, 2025. So a lot of what we're talking about, again, this show's evergreen. So if you listen in a year or two, some of this may or may not be in terms of events, may be different, but the information on herbs is good and solid. So we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more to Mary about, specific herbs, about patient education, and, about what questions should we ask if we go to a pharmacy or if we go to the Farmacy Herb store that Mary owns, or if we just look it up. I mean, how do we educate ourselves? So that's something that we're going to take a look at when we come back. All right. You're listening to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show right here on voiceamerica.com, America's Voice. My guest is Mary Blue. And Mary Blue is the founder of Farmacy Herbs, as well as an author, organic farmer, and community herbalist. And her book and her new edition of her book, Herbal Foundations, will be out next week on her website, farmacyherbs.com, Farmacy.com. Farmacy Herbs, Herbs.com. Stay tuned, folks. Be right back. Hi, everyone, and we are back. We are back with Patricia Raskin Positive Living right here on voiceamerica.com, America's Voice. My guest is Mary Blue, founder of Farmacy Herbs, Farmacy Herbs, as well as an author, organic farmer, and community herbalist. Her book, its second edition of her book, Herbal Foundations, will be out on her website next week, farmacyherbs.com. So welcome back, Mary. Let's talk about what we can do as consumers to educate ourselves. When we walk into a pharmacy, we walk into, a health food store or or an herb store, that we understand rather than guessing or just looking at all of these beautiful herbs and saying, what is that?
Mhm. Well, the first step is to look at what you're eating. Make sure it's not something that's not good for your body.
Okay.
With foods with a lot of processed foods with a lot of chemicals on them are really toxic for the immune system. So first is foremost is looking at, eating a healthier diet if you have access to those foods. Second, walking into an herb store is talking to the herbalist there and asking them what they take. What do you take every day? How do you support your immune system? I know for me as an herbalist, I'm always making sure I'm supporting my digestion. Digestion, and they're finding this out through science, which a lot of cultures have known for many years, is that digestion is the backbone of the immune system and the brain. They're calling the digestive system the second brain. So if you want to increase mental clarity, you want to boost your immune system, looking at foods you're eating is going to be first. And then secondary, you would pick specific herbs based on the results you want. So if you want to boost your immune system and so that your lymph nodes are working better, and that if you do get exposed to something, you're going to fight it more effectively, you would use something like astragalus, which is a Chinese medicine herbs, which has been used for centuries for immune support.
Mm.
Uh, and if you're sick, if you're actually sick and you want something like with an antimicrobial action, you would look towards something like echinacea, which is antimicrobial and it's an immune stimulant. It'll help those white blood cells. The third thing outside of digestion is looking at using herbs that support the liver and the kidneys,
Mhm.
because the liver and the kidneys help flush out all those toxins that we're exposed to every single day. And helping those organs function properly really will help improve health.
Yeah, and let me ask you something on that, because when I think of digestion, I also think of elimination, in terms of our bowels moving regularly. And there's a lot of talk about that, in terms of how often you should move your bowels and the texture of it and all of that. So I want to ask you about that, how important that is in looking at normal and healthy functioning.
Yeah, so definitely people should have a bowel movement at least once a day. Once a day, depending on how much water you're drinking. A lot of times people aren't drinking enough water and your bowels aren't moving because you need more water. So it's not just the food, it's how much water you're taking in. The other thing about digestion and bowel movements is looking at the gut microbiome, which means what does your digestive flora look like? What is the bacteria? What types of bacteria do you have in your digestive system? Because the digestive system, along with like stomach acids, is all bacteria. And
How
that's
do
what,
we know that?
how do you know? Well, you
Yeah.
can look at like specific symptoms in your body.
Okay.
If you have thrush, if you have skin issues, if you have brain fog, if you have diarrhea and or constipation, a lot of times that would indicate that you might have gut flora
I see.
problems. It's a lot of sort of random seemingly symptoms that I actually am not a doctor, so I don't diagnose anything, but I do see that a lot when people come in to support their digestive health, is that those are the kinds of things that those secondary effects of the body that they'll be experiencing.
Right. So we want to look at those in our everyday health. We want to
Right.
little things that maybe we don't think are something, but they might mean something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not
Exactly.
little things, but like you said, is it a memory issue or is it just I forgot today? Is it happening all the time? Right? I mean, it's not, it's the frequency of it and the intensity of it we want to look at. Is that right?
Yeah, and then if you have a bunch of things at the same time where you're getting eczema, brain fog, and you're getting sick a lot, you want to look, the first place I would look is to supporting digestion. Because
Yeah.
as I said, digestion is the backbone of immune and it's the backbone of brain health.
Yeah. Okay. So what would you now, again, we're in February of 2025, where on the Northeast it's cold. It's not cold everywhere. In a lot of places, it's certainly colder than it is other times of the year. What do you suggest for healthy functioning in colder weather?
Well, having a daily infusion. So an infusion is just a tea that's steeped longer. So a tea is usually like steeped 5 minutes, usually like a lot of times green or black tea or chamomile. An infusion are herbs that are steeped at least 30 minutes, sometimes overnight. And each tonic herb, these are, you put your tonic herbs, herbs are strengthen and tone over time. And you can pick a body system that you want to support. So my tonic has herbs for my liver, my kidneys, my digestion, and my immune system. So you pick a combination of herbs that are going to support the healthy functioning of those organs. That's before you get sick. You want to start supporting it to prevent illness.
Now in your store, and I'm sure in others, there are combinations like that, right? That will say for immune support or for digestive support. So they're already mixed together.
Hmm. Yeah, there we have a lot of blends that are already mixed together based on our experience as herbalists in the community. But if you go into an herb store, a lot of times there's an herbalist there on staff who can recommend certain herbs. There's a lot of popular herbs that are sort of buzzwords on social media right now. There's a lot of information on social media which can not
Like
always
what?
true. Oh, everything. I mean, they're always posting about herbs. I mean, there's herb talk right now where people are posting about which herb does what. But that information can't always be trusted on social media, unfortunately. So I would suggest making sure you have a few good resources about what an herb does before you start taking it. That said, herbs are known to be safe. So I
You know
just
what?
suggest people just to start taking herbs. Really,
Okay.
that's about
Here's
it.
my question, though. It's kind of like supplements. Everybody's body is different, right? So for example, my diet may not be the same as yours, and your diet might not support me. Can we say the same about herbs? Would maybe I need a different dosage of herbs, or maybe that particular herb wouldn't harmonize with my body? What do you think?
Well, there are some people that have reactions different than the normal, but in the Western Hemisphere in particular, in the last 100 years, a language called herbal actions has developed to describe the effect of the herb on the body. And I would say 90% of the time, it's going to be accurate, whether an herb's going to make you
Okay.
uh, sleepy or stimulated or boost your immune system. So we do have empirical evidence and lots of studies coming out now showing that the herbs do what they say, what we say they're going to do. That said, if someone's on a pharmaceutical, who knows how it'll interact, pharmaceutical companies don't even know how pharmaceuticals interact with each other. So you throw an herb in there. If you're
Yeah.
on pharmaceuticals, you might want to consult with an herbalist or a doctor who has some experience with herbs.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the kind of the emotional and spiritual effects of herbs. I know that's more, that's what's the word I want to use? More ethereal, maybe?
Mhm.
Uh, but talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so herbs have been evolved in religion since the beginning of time. I mean, the Egyptians used herbs in their ceremonies. The Mayans used plants. The Catholics used frankincense and myrrh. I mean, the three wise men brought baby Jesus frankincense and myrrh, which is an herb. These were really, really valuable substances at the time. So, actually, during the witch burnings and the colonizing of North and South America, a lot of these traditions that were connected to cultural practices were erased through oppression and colonization. So people have lost a lot of that connection. I mean, we still see the Catholics burning frankincense and myrrh, but nobody knows why. Everyone says, "Oh yeah, frankincense and myrrh is an herb, very powerful herbs." So we
Mm,
still see some of the practices, and there are a lot more energetic, which is the energy, the spiritual aspect of the plants.
mm.
Um, that practice is being more refined and sort of being pulled out of the dregs of 300-400 years of oppression and genocide, really.
And also the Native Americans used herbs. That's how they
So
healed.
that's the whole indigenous population of North and South America. All of that information was destroyed. And there's still lots of cultures. I mean, the Narragansett in Rhode Island are still using herbs and have used herbs and teach herbs. So the information wasn't gone, but it was but through the witch burning, the transatlantic slaves, and
Yeah.
the colonization in North and South America, we lost a lot of information.
It's interesting because I watch a lot of historical and period dramas. And a lot of them that I watch are in 1600s, 1500s, 1700s. And a lot of them, certainly in the 1700s, have the Native American story. And there's a lot about herbs in those, just in the narratives of the story. Finished watching Jamestown, which is very interesting. It was the first colony of people who came to Jamestown. And there's a lot with Native Americans there. And so it's very interesting because so much is talked about with herbs. It comes up in almost all the narratives of an episode because people are getting sick or the indigenous population is using it or the settlers are using them. It was very prominent in history.
Yeah, and with the Industrial Revolution, people turn to pharmaceuticals, and which I'm not saying pharmaceuticals don't have a place, but pharmaceuticals don't cover what herbs cover. Pharmaceuticals just can't do it. So, and
But,
connecting that to spirituality and religion
right.
is a big part of herbalism.
But didn't pharmaceuticals originate from herbs, Mary?
Oh yeah, yeah. The first pharmaceutical, either white willow bark was aspirin, and
Right.
then morphine was made from opium poppy.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Fascinating. And there's more in your book that people can read if you want to know more about herbs. Mary's book is Herbal Foundations, and her second edition, which is double the size, is coming out next week on her website, which is farmacyherbs.com. Okay. And when we come back for our last segment, we'll talk more about some success stories, maybe some challenges with herbs, and maybe what Mary sees for the future, in the next 10 or 15 or 20 years as we have a whole new world of technology that is opened up to us. All right, everyone, you're listening to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show here on voiceamerica.com, America's Voice. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone. We are back. We are back for our final segment with Mary Blue, who is fascinating. We're talking about the world of herbs. Mary Blue is the founder of Farmacy Herbs, which is Farmacy, as well as she's an author, an organic farmer, a community herbalist. Her book, Herbal Foundations, contains an overview of herbal actions and information on herbal medicine making and healing techniques and more. And it's in its second edition coming out in a week. We're now in February 3rd of 2025. So you may listen after it's out, and you can go on to the website, farmacyherbs.com with an F. And also there's a store in Providence, Rhode Island that carries the herbs that Mary and her team make on the farm. All right. So welcome back, Mary. Let's talk about some of the successes that you've seen. And you could throw in a challenge there too, but over the years, what you've seen.
Personal or with herbs nationally?
Either one, you pick one.
Yeah, sure. So let's see. In 2012, I was invited to be a speaker at the United Nations Council on Women, uh,
Wow.
speak about how herbs could support women's health. So that was great. I went to New York and
Oh,
represented
exciting.
herbalists on a global level. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Let's see. I ended up working with a local physician through our customers, through my customers and his patients. His patients were telling him about me and saying this herb works. You got to meet this herbalist. And he ended up inviting me to teach up at Brown Medical School because he runs the integrative
Right.
medicine program there. And I developed a relationship with them. This is 15 years ago. And then ended up coming and teaching as an associate professor up at the medical school as an herbalist, teaching doctors the modern practices and within Western herbalism. So that was really cool. Outside of just like having a successful business for 17 years in the same location, I have thousands of students all over the country and the world right now, through my online program and through my in-person education program. So I've
Mm.
learned how to teach people how to learn and how to learn herbalism. So my program does teach about this herb does that, yes, but it's also a framework for learning how to learn herbs. And that's my Herbal Foundations course that I
Isn't
teach.
that great? And what have you heard now, from students and from consumers?
Well, from students, it's life-changing, to have the power to be able to help your friends and family feel better, through nature is life-changing. So do have a lot of students who have started their own businesses. There's an herb shop in Bedford from one of my students. There's an herb shop in Baltimore from one of my students, one in LA from one of my
Isn't that
students.
wonderful?
Yeah, so I have students all over the country, really, one in Maine, really, working to help their communities and really living a fulfilled,
Mhm.
passionate life. Being able to do what you love and help people and connect with nature is a great way to live your life.
Mary, do you think that when you do that, when you connect with nature and you're more in the earth, if you will, do you think that leads to being more authentic?
I think connecting with plants for me grounded my nervous system in a way where it allowed me to be more authentic,
Mm.
where I wasn't as distracted by a lot of the non-authentic noise of society and culture. And
Mm.
also just connecting with plants and identifying as a healer really has helped me have a sense of self that brings authenticity.
Mhm. What do you see coming down the next 10, 20 years? I mean, herbs, as you said, are thousands of years old. But, as we advance in medical breakthroughs and we advance in technology, we advance in stem cell research, what do you see for herbs in the next, let's say, 25 years, 10 to 25 years?
Well, honestly, I hope nothing changes. I hope we continue to have accessibility. If people start looking at herbs as drugs, then we're going to lose our accessibility. So I just continue that it becomes it stays a community based practice. It stays part of people's spiritual practices. And I think putting herbs in a pharmaceutical box would create a lot of accessibility issues. So I hope nothing happens to it in the next 25 years. I hope we continue to have access to any type of healthcare that we really want to. I do love to see the advances in medicine, and I know herbs will be a part of that as far as isolated constituents continuing to create
Well,
pharmaceuticals.
right.
Yeah,
That was my question is, do we see it more compatibility, right? So that we're working together.
yes, yes, but we still need to protect our access to plants throughout that process.
Mm. What would you like to leave our listeners with, Mary, about herbs and herbalism? What's your message?
Well, herbs work if you take them. Understanding that herbs aren't there just for when you're sick, but herbs are there for daily use, and they really do work if you know how to take them right. Just start taking herbs. You don't have to get overwhelmed. Just start with one herb to support your immune system and take it every day for a few months and see how you feel. Lowering stress with herbs will help your immune system, will help your relationships, will help everything. So just starting with one thing and not getting overwhelmed with the multitude of practices and herbs is the best practice.
It's been wonderful to have you on the program,
Oh,
really.
thank you so much, Patricia. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you. I want to ask you, if people would like to contact you, can they write you through the website?
Yes. Yep. Farmacyherbs.com. Yep. And the email is pharmacyherbinformation@gmail. So just check that out on the website.
And again, the new book is, well, it's not a new book, it's a revised edition,
Mhm,
Herbal Foundations. Is there
mhm.
a subtitle for Herbal Foundations?
Yeah, Stardust to Salves.
Oh, great. All right. All right, stay tuned. I mean, stay on the line for a second. I just want to say thank you to Mary and just repeat again that Mary Blue is the founder of Pharmacy Herbs and her book is Herbal Foundations. Log on to pharmacyherbs.com. It's February 2025, and in about a few weeks, or next week, the book will come out in the second edition. So check it out on the website. And remember, the show is evergreen, so you can listen anytime. All right, now let me just share a little bit about me. If you'd like to contact me and you'd like a copy of my newsletter each month, which talks about each of the guests on this program, Mary, certainly for this month, write to me, Patricia at patriciaraskin.com. If you're interested in getting your positive message out the way that I'm helping my guests get it out, and you'd like to do it in the form of having your own podcast, I've interviewed over 5,000 people in my career, and I would love to help you as a podcast coach and really helping you put it together. Like people help people write the book, I help you create the podcast. So contact me and would love to hear from you, Patricia at patriciaraskin.com. Remember, stay healthy, stay happy, get the support you need, and know you can make your dreams come true. Until next time, I'm Patricia Raskin. Bye for now.